My name is Sandy Otsuji, and I'm the Chief Senior Chaplain for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. My role here is to lead the whole chaplain program, both on the patrol side as well as the correctional chaplain side. The service that the chaplains do in the correctional side specifically are to teach. They do counseling one-on-one. They're able to go in on an emergency if necessary. People do have needs periodically during that particular time, their time in incarceration, and really to fulfill the needs of them spiritually.
We operate 5 jails within the Orange County area, and in those 5 jails, 365 days a year, we have volunteers that come into our facilities.
We know that it's a very difficult place to be, to share with people who are very depressed perhaps, or very unsure of themselves, or unsure of their future. And so we think that it's so important to equip them the best we can. That being said, we also want to make sure that the health and well-being of the chaplains themselves are being taken care of, and that is part of the training, part of the oversight, part of the debriefing as they go in and witness a number of different things and different instances.
The Christian Science group that we work with, it's a smaller group. Some of our other groups number in the 400s or 500s. The Christian Science group is about 28, 29 folks, and they come in, they're very dedicated to what they do in our 5 facilities. They both provide counseling, and then they also provide services in each one of our jail facilities. They've always been a great group to work with as far as the material that they bring into the facilities, the monitor and some of the other material that we use. It's stocked in our actual libraries for some of the inmates, and they really enjoy reading the articles out of the monitor, and then the other books also that they provide for us.
As we serve in the chaplaincy program, we want them to see that there is hope. There is the need of looking to a God that can give them hope.
The first time I went in, being into the jail system where you have an armed guard walking ahead of you, and you get to a door, you stand next to the wall, and he pushes a button and talks into a mic, and then you hear this click and this door opens up, and then he ushers you through the door and it slams behind you, and you go through a series of these doors. It's like you couldn't imagine that the jail was that big. It seems like you were going through so many doors, and to get out would be impossible. You know, it's all concrete and metal. But what was interesting for me the first time was, again, the chaplain that I had been going to hear about in the monthly meetings, just had this sense of peace and calm. And you know, he had done it enough times that you knew it had to be okay. And you get into a room of maybe a half a dozen or a dozen inmates, and they're grateful that you came from the get-go. They're grateful you're there. Early on, we switched to where we would go into a very large cafeteria, and we'd end up with about 30 inmates from different sections. And we would put out the literature that we were able to take in at that time. We were able to take in the Sentinels and spread them out. And so we had this huge supply of Sentinels with different article points. And afterwards, they would just, they were happy as anybody to get this stuff, and searching for different articles, and then talking to us, and they would line up and shake our hands and thank us for coming. And so after that first time, it really it broke any mesmeric sense of fear.
The first time we went in, you have butterflies. There's nothing, you know, nothing strange about that, but it's kind of like, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this, you know? But
yeah. Do I know enough? Can I really do this? You know?
Can I do this? You know, this is a little scary. How do I approach the staff? You know, that kind of thing. And it's funny because that feeling is with you for the first 4 or 5 times you go in. But as you're leaving the facility the first 4 or 5 times, and then forever after, you're going, there's nothing I'd rather have been doing. Nothing I'd rather have been doing the last couple of hours than what I just did.
And my name is George Birdsong, and I've been working as a chaplain for 3 years now. Once I started, I just felt like it was something I could do. And I just think the desire to practice Christian Science in a way that it just felt that God's love would carry me through this thing. I wasn't sure. I went in the first time, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking when the clank of the cell doors shut behind you. But once you really know that it's just all about just being humble and going in and seeing these guys for, they're God's perfect children. So the idea, once I got going with that, I became very comfortable with it, never have a doubt about safety. It's just been a very good experience.
Anyone have to overcome their fears. And I have always acknowledged God's government of the universe, and that's the only institution. It is governed by divine law.
The way we got involved, I guess it goes back quite a few years now. I originally started working as a representative on the institutional committee from my local church. And so I would go, and once a month I would hear all these wonderful stories from the chaplains about all the experiences they were having. And I kept telling myself, yeah, someday when I get a little more time, I want to do that.
I was approached by someone in church 24 years ago now, and saying, would you come to a chaplain institutional committee meeting? And so I just attended the meeting, and then it was, would you be an alternate for the representative? I went through the full academy. I was an alternate for the monthly meetings, the local meetings, and then I became the representative for the Santa Barbara Church. Then eventually is, well, we need a worker. What does that entail? Well, you go in and support the chaplain and metaphysically and logistically, and so that was an easy step. And then our chaplain figured that his tenure was up and decided that it was time to move on, and so it was natural, I guess, for me to be the next chaplain.
One of our favorite friends, Hal Shrewsbury, who was a great chaplain, was always inspiring us to follow in his footsteps. So then one day we finally just did it.
Well, it was after the kids grew up and we had a little time, because it takes time, but it's worth it. It's worth it.
We generally spend 4 or 5 hours per Saturday, and have done that for the last 5 years or so.
I was once a Christian Science nurse, and so it was easy for me to think of going into that ministry.
Hi, my name is Marlon Novolozo, and I work in the emergency psychiatric hospital, and that's where they bring in folks who are having some troubles. How I got involved in this ministry is, well, it's because of my love for God and my deep appreciation and gratitude for Christian Science and all the blessings it's given me.
I always felt I wanted to reach out. I wanted to get involved in outreach in a way that I felt could be meaningful. I just felt that Christian Science offers such a wonderful message of hope and redemption, and a couple of people from our church really encouraged me to try and get involved in it.
The qualities that we know are important is, of course, the passion to help and the compassion of the people that are incarcerated. Many people see those who are incarcerated as being villainous or being doing the wrong things, and maybe on a continual basis, or maybe just plain out bad people. But we find that those are the very people who need the most help.
It's not a nice experience for the inmates to be away from their family or to be first time incarcerated. It is opening the thought of that person, or anyone for that matter, to God. What God see? Did God see a criminal? Did God see this or that? You know, and when you take it from God to find out God is all-knowing, all-seeing, no, and if you can, you know, we have to really get ourselves fixed right, because we spiritualize our thoughts. We would remove all the misconceptions and go in there freely.
A lot of physical healings here. One man, he was healed of incontinence. He could barely walk, and when I was going here every Sunday, he would come straight to me and tell me, I need your prayers. And you know, we talked a little bit about his relationship to God. And then the 3 or 4 Sundays later, he was walking without his walker. And I asked him how he was feeling. He said, I'm healed. And another man, he was having trouble with his relationship, and I was seeing him every Sunday, and he came to me during the, it was different denominations there, and he came walking in the room and said out loud, this man healed me, and pointed to me. And he said, this man's words healed me. And I asked him, you know, what's going on? He said, well, my wife said that she wants to get back with me, and she's coming to visit me. And I didn't think that was so unusual. He said, but Marlon, you don't understand. She's been bedridden for a year. And I thought, wow, okay.
I had a one-on-one visit first time, and this is about a year ago, but he came in and he had an obvious impairment. He was on his left arm. He couldn't move it, and he just said, "Oh, don't worry. I've got." They say they call it palsy, and I'm not able to move my arm. And he would kind of move it around. And I read that first sentence in Science and Health. It said, the prayer that reforms the sinner and heals the sick is an absolute faith that all things are possible to God. And I stopped right there. And I said, all things. He said, don't you think that can be healed? And he said, yeah, I do. I said, well, let's just pray, and we'll work on that. And let's just know that there's nothing that God can't do. Probably a couple months later, whenever I'd see him, he'd come in, he'd bring his Science and Health, he'd bring his Bible, and he'd share something. And he was studying. He had a little Bible study group going. So he came in kind of joyfully, and he said that he had just done, I'm trying to think, I think it was 10 sets of push-ups the day before. And I said, great, that's phenomenal. Well, we went on and we talked, and he was, maybe a week or two later, I went back, and he was very joyful, and he was writing, and I noticed he was writing with his left hand. So I said, Tom, how's that arm doing? He said, oh, it's fine. I said, well, it was healed. He said, yeah, I just glorify God. I said, I give God all the credit.
There are so many of them that just, but one of my very first ones that I really remember was this adorable guy, and he came in to see me, and we were talking, and he had never really read the Bible. And I suggested that he read the Sermon on the Mount. Well, bless his heart, he did. I've suggested it through the years for a lot of kids, and most of them don't, but he did, and he comes back to me the next week. And he sits down and he goes, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be angry. And I said, well, yeah. He goes, well, I'm angry all the time. We were praying about it, and we were talking about it. And so at the end of the 9 months, when he was leaving the facility, I asked him, I said, well, you had an anger problem. Oh, he says, you can't believe how much nicer it is to live without anger. But it was precious. It was just precious. But to see it just drop away from him, once he realized that wasn't what he was supposed to be doing. I mean, to him, that was, nobody had ever said, anger's not right. And the Sermon on the Mount told him that. It was beautiful.
In order to be a chaplain within the Christian Science Committee on Institutional Work, you have to go through an interview process, an application and an interview to become a chaplain, and then you have a reappointment process.
You just have to have a love and a desire, and then if you're curious, just attend one of the, like we have a monthly meeting at Orange County with our committee, which is, they're always inspirational, and I went to a few of those and heard the chaplain's reports. You kind of want to get an idea what it's all about. It's nice, we put a little mentor program together for people that had questions. And then if you really are serious, then just, get your badge, go get your security badge and work as a second reader. That's exactly what I did. I just wanted to get the feel for it and see how, and it definitely, that's the only way. You've got to get in there.
Think about your love and your gratitude for God and for Christian Science, and just put that into action. And know that you're not alone. The state committee and the local committees are there with you to support you in prayer and anything, material things that you need, like sentinels and science and health. And then the state committee let you know what other chaplains are doing. It's a wonderful work to help others in the healing process, because what I've found personally, I've found spiritual growth each time, and it's a wonderful experience.
The people, we many times just plain depend on them to be there because that's the friendly face that they have. So
Showing up is an expression of love, it's an expression of care. It makes a big difference to these kids that somebody bothers to come and talk to them.
You're thinking from God, then you know that you're on the right track and all things work out harmoniously.
Recognize that Jesus said, you have a responsibility, you have work to do. Go and do likewise.
The Bible talks about many are called and few are chosen. And so listen to the calling. It's us that does the choosing. We need to choose to serve God. And we are inviting all of you to come attend your local committee meetings. Listen to the chaplain reports. Hear what's going on. See what you can do to be a part of this. God is the one empowering. God is the one healing. We listen and obey.
Okay, the reason I do it is because, I read what Jesus did, and this is as close as I can come to it. And it's good for me, it's good for the kids, it's good for the world. Besides that, it's fun.
And I do it because I love it. It's so rewarding to see the kids smile when they come in crying, and I don't know, there's just nothing better. Nothing better.